My name is Desiree Shaftman, and I'm an abstract artist. And my process involves dance and music, intuition, and painting, where I take sound vibrations found in music and I transpose them into visual compositions. My day-to-day is pretty fluid. My favorite days are when I get to come in here and paint for hours and hours. I do more painting than anything else, the act of painting. So what I do is I start with music. With this piece of work, I am transposing the music that you're listening to into a visual composition in front of you right now. It's very intuitive. It's not note for note. It's just more of a feeling. What is the feeling that I'm getting from this sound? And I listen to the music and I dance and I feel where the composition takes me physically. How does my body move? And then I use those same movements on my canvas. So I'll take a black brush or black paint, or sometimes even chalk if I work on a colored ground. So meaning if I paint the whole canvas one color, I can often use chalk on it to get the movements. And once I get all the lines on there, I can remove some and I can add some. So then I come up with shapes that look more like people or trees and find the meaning, and that meaning comes from inside. So it's not necessarily something I'm thinking about doing. It's something that's intuitive. I'm always observing, even out in the world. I'm looking at colors, I'm looking at other artists and trying to absorb their decisions and absorb the ways that they problem solve. And that helps me to understand the medium that they're using. You learn something from somebody every day. And that's the beauty about being an artist, is that you have the freedom to set your own schedule. Within that, you also have to have the discipline in order to paint every day, in order to, find places to exhibit your work, in order to find exhibitions and competitions that might benefit your work. And so there's a lot of kind of juggling back and forth. And some days I'll just do both. If I get too tired working on a painting, because these are really physically demanding. And if I get too tired, I'll switch at the end of the day and I'll do something different. I've been sitting in front of a blank canvas or piece of paper pretty much all my life. When I was in grade school, my mom and I went on a school field trip to a museum. And I remember walking into one of the rooms and there was a large nude sculpture. And as we were looking at it, it almost looked like it could breathe. And I wondered how somebody could make something so realistic. What tools did they use? What did they look like? What was their studio like? What did this piece of marble look like before they started carving it? How long did it take? And I remember just hammering my mother with all these questions. And later on in life, she said, I knew at that point that your curiosity was enough that you were going to get into art. And so that's when it really started for me. And I found it as a way to, as a kid, I spent a lot of time alone. And I found it as a way to express who I was to the world without actually having to use words. When I was in high school, I told my mom I want to be an artist, and she didn't like the idea. And so our compromise was to Rhode Island School of Design has a summer program for high school students, and so we made a deal that if I went through that and I liked it, then I could continue and go to college. So that's how I kind of convinced my mom to get into it. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, a 4-year program, and I was an illustration major. And my last class, in my last semester, I had to take a class with a teacher who had just come in. At the end of the semester, at the end of the class, we were saying goodbye, and he said, good luck with your painting. And I said, I'm not a painter, I'm an illustrator. I worked primarily in pastels and colored pencils. And he kind of laughed at me. He said, you'll figure it out. When I got out of college, I was dealing with a lot of loss, and I was looking for a way to heal. And that turned into moving on to acrylics, which turned into moving on to oils, which these are. These are actually oils and cold wax medium. It just kept happening. Consistency, just doing it and doing it and doing it, and it becomes a part of your life. It's not a job. It's who you are. And you realize that your voice matters. And as you keep doing this, as you keep being consistent with your work, you find your voice, you find your style. And then you learn to find symbols that mean things over and over and over again, and you use them, and you create your language, which is kind of fun because you're in control, right? You're in complete control of how you're communicating. And there's a freedom in that, there's an honesty in that. And for me, the thing I like most about being an artist is that I'm living authentically. I'm being who I truly am. I'm in alignment with my dreams and my being all at once. My past, my present, and my future, all wrapped up into being an artist. I would really encourage people, kids, young adults, to start now. And that, when I say start now, I mean draw every day, even if it's something small. Try different mediums, play. It's all about playing. Get into a place where you feel okay being vulnerable, making mistakes, because creating is about making mistakes over and over and over again and learning from them and pushing the boundaries of each medium. Start now with what you have. You don't have to have expensive material. Pen and paper, pencil and paper, that's all you really need. And you go out in the world and look, see what inspires you. Is it nature? Is it people? Is it a book, a story? And so you find your niche. You honor what comes out of you as opposed to trying to do something that somebody else did. Don't be afraid to explore, and do it now, because I'm still learning. I've been doing this for 55 years, and I am still learning. And that's the beauty of art. There's always something to learn. There's always a place to push it. And so I would just ask people to feel free within that experience and start now. I think the best advice I could give for anybody was to trade comfort for potential. And once you do that, you're gonna fly through things. You're gonna learn new things, and you're gonna learn how to be vulnerable, and you're gonna learn how to unlearn, and you're gonna learn how to use different things when we're not comfortable.